Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special video, something we haven't talked about much this time of year that we have in past years. TV, Emmys, all that stuff. The Emmy nominations come out July 17th, so about a week from when you'll be seeing this video. And we haven't been doing as much coverage as we have in past seasons, but we have seen a good amount of what's in contention, and we want to talk about what we think will be nominated. So before we get into those predictions, any overall thoughts, Anthony?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because of this being, I have to imagine, the closest between Emmy awards because we just had
It's gotta be.
the previous one back in January because of the strikes. So it is interesting to see if that will make people lean on more of their favorites even more so, which
Mhm.
is crazy to think because we've known them to really lean on their favorites and that one
Yeah.
show can sweep all seven main categories. But what will that mean? They've only had a couple extra months than normal, you know, to see all these shows. So we'll see if it's a drastically different race or if some of these new contenders like Shogun can make an impression. I do think it's interesting that there are many shows that people are watching now that didn't hit the cutoff, like House of the Dragon, not
Mhm.
going to be included in
The
this year's
boys.
and this Emmys, the boys. And so, yeah, I guess we're finally going to catch up with the Bear. This is season
Finally.
two. Going and this was I it's impossible to think that there weren't people so jazzed about season two of the Bear when they were voting for season one.
I think they thought they
Um,
were voting for season 2, especially
yes.
because of how much it was delayed, yeah.
So yeah, I think that it's going to be an interesting season. No Succession this year, which pains
I
us.
know.
So yeah, let's
Yeah.
get into it.
Let's do it. Yeah, I do think this season might honestly be similar to last season where we have one show winning a lot of the categories in all main 3: drama, limited, and comedy. Let us get into our Emmy predictions. Starting off with drama series, I have my 8 here. I think the top 7 I feel pretty good about. Shogun, I think, is winning. The Crown will be nominated again, it's always nominated. Morning Show, never nominated before, but I think the drama category this year is just so barren that I think it will get in. Fallout was a pretty big hit on Amazon Prime. I think that will probably get in there. Good enough reviews as well. Same with Gilded Age. Hasn't gotten in before, but it's consistently gotten good reviews, and I think not enough competition this time for it to not get in. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, great show on Amazon Prime. I think it'll probably get in there. And then these last two I'm least confident about. Slow Horses, I believe it's its 3rd season. I only watched the first 2. It hasn't gotten in before. It hasn't really gotten much Emmy love or attention before, but it's the kind of show that in a less competitive year, I could still see them going for. And then that last spot, Ahsoka, I guess, is what I'll put in that last spot because they have surprised us sometimes with how much they like their Star Wars shows. I mean, flashbacks to when Obi-Wan somehow got into limited series when no one expected it. Mandalorian, Andor have all gotten in. So I put that in there. But I guess it could be The Curse or Loki. I just don't think The Curse, it's Showtime, which isn't a good thing at the Emmys, and I don't think it's been seen enough, and it's also weird. And then Loki, maybe, but I just think that they like Star Wars, it seems, more than Marvel. So that's what I've got in drama series. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the top of your list. I think Shogun, The Crown, The Morning Show, those are very popular titles. When it comes to The Crown, this is its final season, I believe. It's
It
so
is.
weird,
Yeah.
the cutoffs and, Better Call Saul, it's like it was off for like over a
It was like a
year. We were
year.
still,
Yeah.
yeah. But and they obviously loved it. This was one of the shows I was referencing that ran the table, winning all of its
Mhm.
uh, categories for season four,
Yeah.
which was the last Olivia Colman season. So
Mhm.
that will do very well. I agree that Fallout, I think, is a surprise. I think it fills the niche of or the niche of that Westworld spot. It's not the
Yeah.
big genre show, but it's popular enough that it gets in there. And I think it's one of the better binges. I also think so. It's something that I think
Mhm.
people can catch up on very well. Yeah, I feel Slow Horses is probably a good bet. It's grown steadily in the past couple years. It has,
Yeah,
I think, a potent fan base that can power to this nomination. I think the one that you don't have that I'm surprised is the Gilded Age, because I do think that's,
I was right
maybe.
there at number
Oh,
5.
wait. Oh, you do. Sorry, excuse me. Not the one you don't
I
have. I
Okay.
think, Three Body Problem. Sorry. Um,
Oh, yeah.
because I think that that show, like, personally, like, that was doing it had pretty good ratings from Netflix,
Yeah,
where Ahsoka, like, I don't think was as watched as The Mandalorian and Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think
probably not.
the difference between those 2 shows and Ahsoka, I think, is that those 2 shows are built off the framework of the popular films that everybody has seen. Obi-Wan, the
Mhm.
prequel, and the Mandalorian, the original trilogy, definitely has a spiritual connection and kinship to
Yeah,
those shows. Where Ahsoka leans on the more
the animated stuff.
children-focused animated programs, which there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but I
No,
do think
no.
that, Andor, these I think have positioned themselves towards a little bit more of a mature audience, where I feel like Ahsoka is kind of a bridge from the more children-focused corner of the galaxy, and that's where I think there is an issue.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily think that Loki replaces it. I think that Disney Plus right now isn't in the best, like, place to get an awards recognition. I think the
Yeah.
best place for Disney Plus is Tom Hiddleston potentially sneaking into Best Actor in a drama series.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I just think a Theory Body Problem, it's an original show that you don't need, a primer on, which I think helps. But I also think I don't see there being that much of a Showtime curse that stops the curse from getting in. I
Yeah.
mean, this is the first thing, if you set aside that people will be voting on post Emma Stone's Oscar win. I think that people will want to lean into it. It is so unique. So I don't know. I feel like I think it comes down to, if people are more interested. Three Body Problem maybe is a little bit more broad. Um,
Mhm.
but the curse, I think maybe people give more points to it being original, and this
Yeah,
new
it's got more
vision.
prestige.
Yeah, so I think both of those are probably above Ahsoka. I wouldn't have
That
Ahsoka on the list.
makes sense. Yeah, I was blinded maybe by the Star Wars, success in past shows, but I can totally see what you mean, how this is different than those, a little less prestige and serious. I'm not confident about anything that I'll put in that 8 spot at the end of the day. That top 7 I feel pretty good about. That 8 spot is going to be a wild card, I think.
Mhm.
Well, I think it'll probably be one of those. I just won't be confident in which one I pick. So we shall see. Now on to drama actress, where I have Anna Sawai winning for Shogun. I think the kind of standout star at the end of that show, got the most buzz and press. My favorite performance on the show. She was the standout for me as well. Jennifer Aniston, I think, will get in again for morning show. Same. Imelda Staunton, I don't think got in for season 5 for The Crown, but I think she'll get in for the final season. Reese Witherspoon for the morning show as well. Both of those actors have been nominated in previous seasons before. I think they've kind of switched. Maya Erskine, for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. She's great in that show. She's super funny. She's an underrated actress. And that show is in drama series, so I think she'll get in. And then Emma Stone for The Curse. Even if it's not in drama series, I still think she's Emma Stone. And it's a great performance. So I think she'll still probably get in there. If Followed is huge, I could maybe see Ella Purnell, but even then, I don't know. Those like more blockbustery TV shows don't always need to get acting nominations to still
Mhm.
get into drama series.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't see Purnell getting in, unless it's really riding a fallout wave that we're just not anticipating.
yeah,
I agree with Anna Sawai. I think that she's really ingratiated herself into the ecosystem. She was at the Hollywood Reporter Roundtable,
hmm,
sharing the likes of Nicole Kidman and Jennifer
yeah,
Aniston and Jodie Foster. So I think that she's really been anointed this season, which is great. And then people are leaning into Shogun in that way. I do think that one of the morning show people could miss, as you said, because
yeah,
neither it's this is the third chance up at bat for this show, and
yeah,
it's never been where both of them get in.
hmm,
Because I do think there could be room for Carrie Coon, who you have in your honorable mention. I
yeah,
also want to bring up Carrie Preston and Elsbeth, who
hmm,
you probably just saw in The Holdovers. She played the nice teacher
yes,
friend to Paul Giamatti's character. And so, because I do think that people are paying attention to her in that show, and it's a very different type of show from the rest of these, and it's a new name. I do think they it's always usually a nice mix. You get your favorites, you get the ones that have been there in the shows that they love, but then you'll get like the Kerry Russells and the Diplomat.
Yeah.
Um, and just looking at this list, I see a lot of names that I've seen before, either in
Mhm.
conversation or in these specific shows. So I always tend to
Yeah.
look at like who are the breakouts, and I think those are potential names. But you do have Maya Erskine, you do have Anna Sawai. I do think those will bring it in. I think Emma Stone could. I, I'm a little less confident in her. I think because it could be the thing that like listen, she could get in, she could not. It's just a matter of how people are feeling.
Yeah.
Um, because it's the type of thing where once you're at that caliber, you really have to be amazing. I think to
Mhm.
get in. So that's the question I think that she will have to face. But I could see a world where maybe you're right, the curse doesn't get in, and she's the only nomination. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting place. How does Nathan Fielder? How does he? What's his opinion? What's the general climate on him? So
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, yeah, I think this looks pretty good, but that's why I'm like, there could be a
Yeah, it
sneaky thing there.
could not work out, yeah. I feel pretty decent about that at that top 5, and then I could see Emma Stone miss, or one of the morning show, women miss for Carrie Coon or, as you mentioned, Carrie Preston as well. Um, this next 6 is something that I feel even more confident in, scarily. Hiroyuki Sanada, I think, will be winning for Shogun. I think Shogun is going to win most of the drama categories. He's the face of the show. He, like, has been behind the show in a producerial effort. Um, so I feel pretty good about him winning, especially looking at the competition. Gary Oldman for Slow Horses. He's great in the show. It's like a very character acty performance. Great performance. I just don't think that that show has enough weight to it. I don't think enough people have seen it. This will be his first time getting nominated for it. I don't think that'll be enough for him to win. Cosmo Jarvis is great on Shogun as well. I just do think if they're going to pick one of those Shogun actors, it'll be Hiroyuki Sanada. Wong Goggins, great in Fallout. Donald Glover, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Dominic West for The Crown. And then the only honorable mention I could come up with was Colin Farrell for Sugar, where
Hmm.
there's an interesting twist on that show, as I'll say. I think most people have seen it, but that show got pretty mixed reviews and reactions. I don't think enough people saw it overall for him to sneak in there, especially when you look at these top 6. They're all in, I think, shows that will be in drama series, so more people will have seen them. So I feel pretty good about that 6, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, Tom Hiddleston and Loki, I think has a chance.
Yeah.
As we saw with oh my God, Andor. Remind me.
Oh, Diego Luna. Did he
Thank
get
you.
nominated? Yeah,
But you saw him really taken seriously
he was
throughout
close.
award season.
Yeah.
He was close. I believe he got a Golden Globe nomination. So I do think that that sort of genre Disney Plus performance is usually on the bubble, so it's
And
worthy
it's the
here,
end of, like,
especially
a decade-long
yeah, if
character.
people want to lean into that, they very well could. So that's possible. And then I do the only other name I would maybe throw out other than like Nathan Fielder, because if we think the curse
Mhm.
could perform in that way, he could go along for the ride, is Idris Elba and Hijack, because that got
Yeah.
some good ratings. I was very popular on Apple TV Plus. I could see maybe him sneaking in there. But other than that, I think this is a pretty expected list. I think that the how I'm viewing this season is just that there seems to be less competition, because I feel like the campaign, maybe it's just that the campaigns haven't kicked off yet because we're still simmering from the from January. And so it just
Mhm.
seems that this is very expected. There aren't as many names to be thrown into the ring. I think limited
Mhm.
series is probably maybe more competitive than drama series.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that this all is making sense.
Yeah.
It's odd, I think, for a first season show to be so strong,
Yeah.
and I think that's what's disrupting this a little bit, because usually it's like, oh, it's the people we've loved for 2 seasons going at bat because they've never had a chance yet.
Yeah.
Comedy, I think, comedy is easier to kind of make it on your first go. We saw it with Ted
Yeah.
Lasso. We saw it with Hacks, as far as
The
like getting a lot
Bear.
of awards for its first season. The Bear, of course. I feel like drama usually takes a season. Took
Mhm.
Game of Thrones, I think, what, till season 4 or 5 to win for the
Yeah.
first time. Succession, they didn't win for season 1, so
Mhm.
it's a it's a feather in Shogun's cap.
It is, it's impressive, and drama would have been even more barren because it looked like Shogun was going to be in limited earlier on in the season. So if no Shogun was here, I don't know how we would be doing these predictions because it's already pretty empty overall competition in drama. So Shogun has helped us out in those regards. Drama supporting actress. I feel pretty good about Elizabeth Debicki continuing to sweep for the crown in the sixth season. I think she is easily the best part of it, even though she's only in the first half of it. I think she's the standout of season 5 and season 6. I think probably the two weakest seasons of the show overall. Um, so yeah, I think her performance as Diana is the clear standout, and I think she'll probably end up winning for that, especially because competition, great performances like Moeka Hoshi for Shogun. She's great in that show. Leslie Manville in The Crown. They've nominated her before. Lots of morning show people. I've got Holland Taylor, Nicole Bahari, and Karen Pittman for the morning show. But that show is very. I've seen most of this past season. That show is very acting forward and lots of showy acting stuff and lots of dramatic moments. It's kind of soap opera-y in a way. So I can see that really appealing to the actors, as well as
Mhm.
I've also got Fumi Nakaido in for Shogun, and
Yeah.
she's more in the second half of the show, but she plays a great antagonist of sorts. So that's my 7 there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I agree with you on the top of the list. Your top three makes a lot of sense. I do
Mhm.
think that you're discounting Christine Baranski. I think she is a staple that people
Yeah,
really love, and I think she is a different flavor because she's on a show that's not in,
yeah.
she's not on Shogun the Crown or the morning
But when
show. So
you
I
look at
think
the supporting categories, it's usually like 2 or 3 shows, and
it, yeah, but I think that has been, when we look at, I think the years that you're pointing to, which are like the White Lotus and Succession,
Mhm.
Succession was on its final season. The White Lotus, that was the only season for these actors. So there were other reasons there. It was kind of as if this was the last chance to award them, which this is not the
Mhm.
case, I think, for anybody but the Crown. Like Morning Show will be coming back for season
Yeah,
4. They just started filming, I think, this week. Shogun will be coming back. And so I do think that there'll probably be more variety here. So yeah,
I hope
I
so.
do think I think Christine Baranski. I also think Greta Lee coming off of her, kind of. I feel like people like they knew of her, but I do think Past Lives really broadened her
Yeah,
awareness. And I think then people are going to be like, oh yeah, she was on the morning show, and
yeah.
she'll get a nomination out of that. Um,
I could see
so
that. I just
I
think
have
those other
her.
3 performances have more to do, in my opinion, in the show than Greta Lee's character.
Yeah, but if you watched the show, because like I feel like if you watched the morning show season 1, there were a number of performances that I think, were integral to that working that were
Mhm.
overlooked. I think
Yeah.
this has always been a show that like I don't think that just because the competition is less that we're just gonna suddenly like take a 180 on this show. Like they've kept this at a distance for some of it. Like it's weird. Like it'll win best supporting actor for Billy Crudup, but at the same time,
Mhm.
it didn't get into best drama series its first season, right? Like
Yeah.
it's it's always been this
On the bubble.
weird. It's on the bubble. It's this translucent thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I predicting three names and two of those names being less popular actors than one
Mhm.
is I think bold of you to say.
I guess, yes. I just feel like seeing this past season, those 3 performers got more to do and more juicy
Yeah,
moments than Greta Lee did, but maybe
if
if
they're
they're name
watching
checking.
the show
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Well, I think more people
Um,
probably have watched Morning Show than Gilded Age, if I were to guess, but I don't know, Gilded Age, I don't know, it's a, what, HBO show? More people
yeah.
probably have HBO than Apple, so
I do think other names to throw out. I think that we should mention Audrey McDonald for the Gilded Age, because again,
Mhm.
if they're going to lean into that, I think that's a potential nomination there. Certainly
Yeah.
a beloved theater actress,
Yes.
and then also Cynthia Nix from the Gilded Age, part of television
Mhm.
royalty coming from Sex and the City, and then Kristen Scott Thomas if they want to branch out into a different show with Slow
Yeah.
Horses.
Yeah.
I believe she is an Oscar winner, I believe, so that could help her
Yes.
get into this category.
Yes, those are worthy of mentioning. Speaking of Billy Crudup winning for The Morning Show, right now I have him winning supporting actor right now, but I do see a world where if Shogun is just like a sweeper, I could see a world where Tadanobu
Mhm.
Asano could win for Shogun because I think he was the supporting actor standout in my opinion. He's a great character, lots of comedic relief a lot of the time. Right now, I'm sticking with Billy Crudup because he has, he won when the show wasn't even in drama series, and now it'll be performing stronger this season. And he has a lot of juicy stuff to do this season. I guess you could maybe say John Hamm would take away some votes, also being nominated for the morning show. But I do still think between those two, Crudup is more of the standout. Jonathan Pryce for the crown will probably just continue to happen. Two more Shogun actors, Taikihiro Hira for Shogun, and then Tokuma or Nishioka for Shogun. Two other great performances on that show. I forget their characters' names, but Hira plays like the main bad guy. I forget his name. And then Nishioka is Hiroyuki Sanada's like secondhand guy. So both also very good on that show. I do think between those three actors, though, that Tadanobu Asano is more of the standout. And then Mark Duplass for the morning show. I guess I'm just going in on the morning show has showy soap opera performances, so I guess I'm going with
Yeah.
that. I could also
The
see
more the morning Shogun seems to be your
the morning
thing.
Shogun with a sprinkle of the crown is what
Yeah.
I'm going for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a good list. I do agree with you that Billy Crudup, John Hamm, that's an interesting race at the top.
Mhm.
And it potentially they might split the vote and Jonathan Pryce can sneak in there. Um, is how I'm reading this race. Because I
Interesting.
do
I
think
would
it's
think
not going to be
Tadanobu would before
potential.
those.
I think that the Shogun is going to win the two leads. I don't know if it's really
Mhm.
going to like sweep that that much. I mean, again, as I
That
just
hard.
said, the fact that it's a season one drama when it's going up against shows like The Crown in their last season, because there are surprises and there have been surprises with this show. We didn't expect
Mhm.
necessarily Claire Foy to take it on her way out or Olivia
Yeah.
Colman, and they did. And Jonathan Pryce is a beloved actor, stage, screen, television. That could be something, especially if they feel Crudup and Ham have had their day in the sun.
Mhm.
Crudup has won for this role. Ham, of course, part of television history with Mad Men. So I
Yeah.
could see that happening as a way to give the crown. I could see where Shogun wins the lead and the crown maybe wins supporting, especially
Supporting.
because I think that Jonathan Pryce doesn't have as much competition within his own show in this category.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
only again, you're gonna make it's making me sound as if I'm the Gilded Age apologist or something.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the only name that I think should be on this list potentially is Nathan Lane. Again, beloved. A lot of
Okay.
theater
Yeah.
actors
Yeah.
that are in this race.
There
I
are. Yeah.
feel, but
Yeah.
yeah, because again, I could see them wanting to spice it up a little bit, and he would offer it some spice.
He would offer a little bit of that Gilded Age spice. So yeah, I could see that as well. Um, and now I think that's it for. Oh wait, no, we've got the guest categories. Speaking of Claire Foy winning for the crown, I think she might just win guest actress again for not doing very much on the crown.
This would be her
Um,
third win for this
it would
show,
be.
and two of
It
them
would.
are in guest actress.
In guest
Wow.
when she doesn't do a whole ton. But I think they might just do it again because I mean Yuko Miyamoto is great in Shogun. Once again, I don't know how like if Shogun's really gonna be like that strong. Um I could maybe see it happening. And then you've just got a bunch of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's interesting. I don't think it's gonna be super strong in drama series, but like it has like so many options in the guest categories because there are so many actors who just pop in for an episode or just for like a scene in an episode where like big name actors. It kind of reminds me of like Poker Face last season,
Or The
where there were
Bear season 2,
or The
which we're gonna
Bear.
be
That's
talking
true.
about.
That's true. Where there are just so many options, and I just wonder because Poker Face only ended up getting, I think, one of those actors nominated. I think Judith Light, who ended up winning. But it's not like they got a bunch of the Poker Face actors nominated. So I still think because there's not a ton of options here, my only honorable mention is another Mr. and Smith performer. So I think it'll probably end up getting Sarah Paulson and Parker Posey. I think probably the two most showy of those guest performers on that show. And then Marsha Gay Harden is a good guest performer on the morning show, with maybe Michaela Cole also getting in there. That's my top six there.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Um, yeah, I think that checks out. I think
Yeah.
that makes sense. I could see a world where maybe Sarah Paulson, who's probably not going to win drama guest comedy, maybe is buoyed by that to win this.
Yes. Maybe.
Um, so we shall see. But yeah, and I do think there's a world where Michaela Cole sneaks in. I think that she's
Hmm.
beloved from I
She's
May
great in that
Destroy
show.
You. Also,
Yeah,
Kristen Scott Thomas, nominee, not a winner for the
nominee, not a
Oscar.
winner. Okay, still impressive. Um, okay, now drama guest actor. I've got Nestor Carbonell winning for Shogun just because I don't really know who else I would pick. He's great in the show, especially in the first episode. He has a lot of funny moments with Cosmo Jarvis's character. He kind of disappears and then pops up back at the end. So great guest actor. John Turturro is great in his one episode in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's early on in the season too, so if they didn't finish the season, they still saw him. Then I've got two Fallout actors, I guess, with Michael Emerson and Kyle MacLachlan. Two pretty good performances. And then Paul Dano for Mr. and Mrs. Smith as the creepy neighbor guy. I've also got him getting in there with Jonathan Pryce once again for Slow Horses, maybe, but I don't think Slow Horses is going to be as strong as these other shows. And then Wagner Mora once again for Mr. and Mrs. Smith in guest. So that's what I've got there.
Listen, if Paul Dano gets on this list, I'll be happy because he seems to have he has an Achilles heel when it comes to actually getting on
Oh,
lists.
yeah, getting nominated for stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll think of this as all the this is for There Will Be Blood and Love and
Hmm.
Mercy, the Fablemans and the
Yep.
Batman and every single great performance he's ever
His
given.
guest nomination in
Yes,
drama series.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I will take it.
Hmm. He's good in the show. So yeah.
What
That
if we've been saying
ends.
his name wrong and because nobody's ever had to say it for an award show that we never just
They've just been
we don't
filling it out wrong.
you know.
Yeah. Maybe. That ends our drama predictions. We are now heading over to the comedy side, where I still have the bear winning. This is an interesting situation because this is for season 2, which I do think is, I'm not going to say objectively because all art is subjective, but I think most people would think it is the best season of the show. But people are going to be, I think it'll obviously be nominated, but in terms of winning, people are going to be voting on the winners in a post season 3 reality, where most people agree. I think season 3 is the weakest of the seasons. In a range, some people are like saying it's terrible. I don't think it's terrible. I just do think it is a downgrade from the past 2 seasons. It almost seemed like they tried this past season to make it more of a comedy. They added a lot more fact scenes in there, which I do wonder if that whole The Bear isn't a comedy series is going to ever hurt it. Because
No.
you look at these top 2 here, Hacks is a true comedy series. The Bear
Yeah, but
isn't
we
really.
never. I think if it's in the cat, fans will follow it no matter where it's placed. Orange is the New Black would switch between categories. It didn't matter. I think
Oh,
no,
you're
because like,
you're buffering.
hello, can you hear me?
No, you're frozen.
Hello, hello, hello.
You're
Check
good
one,
now.
two.
You're
Okay.
good now.
I just don't think they'll ever call them on this because I think that they love these shows and they love the performances more than they love the category politics of it. Wherever they
Yeah.
end up, the fans will show up. So I don't see that happening. I do think though that because this is Hack season 3,
Hmm.
so that and they had a really great strong
I
season
think it's their
3.
best season
I could
in my.
see a world, we saw, I mean, Hacks nearly beat out Ted Lasso because it won
Hmm.
directing and writing and best
Yeah.
actress. And we were like, oh my God, is Ted Lasso not as strong as we think it is? So
Hmm.
it could happen, but I just think that if people really remind themselves what season of The Bear they're voting on, and I want to hope that the voters do,
I hope.
um,
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few seasons that are as strong as that comedy drama limited series that I think that the Bear will win. And I think what they have in the Bears' favor is the acting wins that it's likely to take,
Mm, yeah.
which I think will just make people want to check it off for this as well. So yeah, I think but that top 4, man, that's as
Hmm.
strong as a category as we ever need. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So Abbott, I think, well, third season, probably similar to The Bear, the weakest season of the 3, if I were to guess, but it'll still obviously get in there. Only Murders in the Building, obviously. Curb Your Enthusiasm is a pretty consistent nominee here. I think final season for that as well, so I think that'll show up. What We Do in the Shadows, same thing. It's gotten some Emmy love before. The Gentleman is a new Netflix comedy series. It did pretty well ratings wise. It's one of their biggest shows so far this year. It's got a pretty good cast. So I have that getting in there, as well as Reservation Dogs, which has never been nominated here before, but is its final season. And I needed something to put in that last spot, so I guess I went with that. I don't know what else I would do. I've
I
got
mean,
Palm Royale.
I would put
maybe.
Palm Royale. I think that was a splashy
Yeah.
show. I think it appeals to a demographic that these other shows don't necessarily do because it appeals more to like this the snobbery
Yeah.
side of this voting academy. So I would probably take out The Gentleman and put in Palm Royale. Though I
Okay.
do think that Reservation Dogs maybe it just doesn't it can't get up there enough, and then maybe The Gentleman being a new show, splashy on Netflix does help.
Yeah.
I do think that top six is pretty locked.
Yeah.
And yeah, which season 3 did you not find as strong? Abbott Elementary or Only Murders?
Abbott Elementary. And Only
Oh,
in the Murders, honestly. I think both of them weren't as good as previous season. And The Bear. Hack season
I
3
mean,
went strong though.
Hack season 3 was, I think, its strongest season. I thought Abbott
Yeah.
and Only Murder season 1 was probably my favorite, but then I love season
Mhm.
3. I loved setting it in the Broadway show, and I loved Abbott. I watched all of Abbott
I
season
s
3 in one day, and
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
regret
It's
it.
a
It was a
great
lot of fun.
binge. It's a great binge.
Yeah,
I still really like the show. I do just think, um, they weren't as strong as the past seasons, but they're still both very good.
yeah. I also think Palm Royale, and this could be our transition to comedy actress,
Mhm.
is that I do think Kristen Wiig will get nominated, and I think that will help it.
I
Um,
agree. Only 5 spots here, which is interesting. They do it based off submissions, so I guess less submissions here in the comedy
mhm,
categories. So I've got Gene Smart winning for Hacks. I don't think Io Edebiri is going to win for The Bear. Again, it's interesting. Our top 3 here are all coming off of previous wins. The
wins.
last time they were nominated, Gene Smart, Io Edebiri,
Mm.
and Quinta Brunson were all previous winners for the last time they were nominated for their shows. I don't know. I think Gene Smart in Hacks is kind of gonna be like a Julia Louis Dreyfus for Veep. Every time she's nominated, she pretty much continues to win because she's
Yeah.
so great in the show and it's a perfect role and character for her. And
And
I don't know. I feel good
I
about
also think that Gene Smart is the lead, where yes,
it. Hmm.
Io Adebri plays an important part, but like, the show doesn't revolve around her in the same way, and so I think that hurts her a little bit when she's going up against somebody who is such a force in her show. The show is about her,
Yeah.
and so I do think Gene Smart will take this. She's got just the meteor role. I feel with
Hmm.
more chances to impress, and
Yeah.
also it allows Hacks to win something if the Bears going to sweep up elsewhere.
Yeah, yeah. And then in
Yeah,
those last 2 spots, got some SNL alum in Maya Rudolph for Loot. The Emmys love Maya Rudolph, and I think that second season will probably, because there's less competition, do a little better. And she's very funny in the show as well. And then Kristen Wiig for Palm Royale. Got Selena Gomez missing once again for Only Murders in the Building, unfortunately. And then Devery Jacobs for Reservation Dogs as my honorable mentions. If there were 6 spots like there were in past years, I would have Selena Gomez getting in. She unfortunately continues to like be right on the bubble. I don't know. I don't think she is the standout on that show, and I think that kind of hurts her compared to these other performances where I do think they are the comedic standouts of their shows.
hmm.
So
All
we shall
right.
see. She'll be in the Oscar conversation though, so who knows? Comedy actor Jeremy Allen White will also continue to win continually for The Bear. I've got both our Martins for Only Murders in the Building, Larry David for Curb Your Enthusiasm final season. I think they'll honor him for that. And then because I've got Gentleman in comedy series, I put Theo James in for lead actor. I guess maybe Jarrell Jerome for I'm a Virgo. He's a previous, I believe, winner at the Emmys, as
Yes.
well as Kelsey Grammer for Frasier. I just don't think that reboot was big enough for him to
Mhm.
probably get in, but who
Agreed.
knows? It's a
Everything.
pretty easy 5 there. Comedy supporting actress. Unfortunately, only 6 spots here. It's unfortunate because like the first season of Abbott, there were 8 spots and Lisa Ann Walter missed. Then the following year, there were 7 spots and Lisa Ann Walter missed. And now there's 6 and she missed. And I think in each of those years, she was like the next person. They're just continually losing spots. So I feel bad for her. But on the positive side of things, I think Hannah Einbinder is going to finally get her time in the spotlight for Hacks. I think this is her strongest season, especially I think
Yeah.
the final episode. She's got one particular moment that's great, but I think she was just as much a standout this season as Gene Smart, which I think in the past seasons Gene
I
Smart
mean,
got more of the spotlight, but I think now
I
this is
feel
kind
like
of
that's
more
been the case the
Hannah.
entire year. I just think there was always, she was young and she
Hmm.
had a little bit. I think she had to prove a little bit more. She was going up
Yeah.
against, Shirley Ralph, who's had such an
Hmm.
iconic career, and Hannah Waddingham, who I think was just, this actor who was a surprise to all of us, but you could also tell was like somebody who's waiting for this sort of moment to
Yeah.
really, define their career. Where Hannah Einbinder was like fresh out of college. My
Yeah.
alma mater, by the
Doing
way.
stand-up. Yeah.
I'm very
Oh,
proud
nice.
of Hannah Einbinder. She came to Chapman
Yeah.
too with season 3. I was very,
Awesome.
very, very proud of my college community. So I'm very happy if she
Yeah.
wins. I
Yeah.
do think. Listen, this is Meryl Streep could just go. I
I
think
don't
there is a lot
I
of
think she
love
could miss, honestly,
for. I don't know about that. I think that
'cause
there's a lot of, I think, respect for her coming into a show like this
Mhm.
and playing a character unlike anything that I've seen her do recently. And I think she's an integral part of that season. I mean, when she's singing the "Look for the Light"
Yeah.
song, I think the comedic bit she really gets. The show starts with her
Mhm.
this season, so I see her getting in. I think the one that could miss, because I love her on this show, and I think that she brings a great energy, but I just don't know what's the scene, like what's the moment we look to her and say, this is the moment that's going to get her nominated. Is Abby Elliott on The Bear?
Yeah.
I could see her missing for Lisa Ann Walter. I mean, you also have like people like Carol Burnett, Allison Janney, Meg Stalter that are all in
Mhm.
the wings. I think this is probably the deepest
There's a lot of
category.
options.
I mean, frankly, if we were going to put in one, I mean, I thought Molly Gordon was just as good on The Bear in season 2 as
Yeah.
Abby
Yeah.
Elliott was. So it's tough. I just like, I feel like she would get in because she's part of that main quartet that the show's
Mhm.
that leads the show between Evan Moss Backrack, Io Debris, and Jeremy Allen White. Which, in that
Yeah.
reason, maybe that's why she gets in. But I don't know. I feel like she would be on the bubble more than Meryl. I mean, Meryl is. I mean, I feel like she's rarely on the bubble. She's on the
Yeah.
bubble in like Mamma Mia. That's when she's on the bubble. Like
Yeah.
I think this the
She's
type of thing that, you go television and you're Meryl Streep, you get respected for that.
she's pretty good at getting nominations, even more so than wins. So I
Mhm.
think she'll probably be nominated. I just do think that when it comes to predicting the Emmys, lots of people overestimate like movie star prowess and power. Like last season, lots of people thought Olivia Colman would get in for Great Expectations. Lots of people thought Harrison Ford would get in for Shrinking. I think part of that was just how big of stars they are coming to TV. Um,
But
I
those
still
are
think
on
they'll probably get
small
in there.
shows. Like
Well,
Shrinking was a first season
smaller, yeah.
show, and it wasn't like it was like on the bubble as far as getting in. We said on the bubble a lot this episode.
We have.
Um, it was on the bubble of getting into the category, let alone winning. Only
Mhm.
Murders in the Building, as we said, is like a top 4 comedy
Yeah.
show. It has become a staple of this. There's no like I think what helps when you're a movie star in these sort of shows is that people were already watching, and then you just like came in like a rocket. Like it's very similar to Meryl Streep on Big Little Lies.
Yeah.
Just in a different genre. And I don't see her. I just feel like she does that sort of character. I feel like it would be odd for people to not be impressed with it.
Mhm.
Also because we're in sort of this dry spell where it's been the longest stretch in her career without an Oscar nomination.
Mhm.
So like it's not like she's been in the talk recently. Like I feel like,
Yeah.
we're lacking a Meryl Streep nomination, and we'll
At
take it
our
at the Emmys.
awards shows. Yeah, true,
Um,
true.
but yeah, I agree. Lisa Ann Walter, I just think is such an integral part of that show, and
She's so
I'm
good.
disappointed that she continually doesn't get recognized for it. Because
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many episodes I could point to as far as that's the episode she should get it for.
Mhm.
Um, I also think you seem to be very strong on Liza Colin Zayas, which
I'm factoring in a little bit of, what happened, I think, with Evan Moss Backrack when they got their own, like, standalone episode in the season that premiered during voting that isn't the season they're voting on with Liza. She got the Napkins episode, which I think is one
yeah,
of the best episodes of the new season, and she's great in it. But I don't think that's enough to get her to win like it was for, Richie's Forks episode.
gotcha. Because that I do think is that might be really inside baseball, like people really paying attention. But again, we'll see. I do think,
She's been around a while. She's been in the theater scene in New York for a long time.
yeah,
So I think there's
we'll never really get a chance of like what motivates people, like what's in their mind when they're voting when it comes to these
yeah,
seasons. But yeah, I do think that the takeaway is Hannah Einbinder. I will say too, Janelle James continually
she's so
elevates every
good.
scene she's
She'll probably
in
never
on
win
Abbott.
for that show, but she's
Um,
so funny.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe on the I don't think any of us would have necessarily thought Kieran Culkin would have won Best Actor, but I think people wanted to
Mhm.
catch up with him before the show went out. So I could see a similar fate happening to Janelle James, because
Hopefully.
she's remarkable.
She is.
So yeah, I think It's such a it's crazy to look at people like, Carol Burnett
I
not
know.
even making your honorable
Yeah,
mention, you know?
yeah.
Um,
Only
but,
so much room on the slide,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah. Alright.
But yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate with how few spots there are on the supporting categories for comedy this year. Speaking of which, comedy supporting actor. This was easier though for me. I think Evan is going to win once again because they're actually voting for season two, which I do think he is the biggest. That's his biggest standout season
Yeah.
for The Bear. Tyler James Williams is in there consistently for Abbott. He's great on the show. And then lots of other Bear performers here. I've got Oliver Platt, I've got Lionel Boyce, and I've got Maddie Mattinson. And then I've got Paul W. Downs for Hacks with Carl Clemens Hopkins for Hacks, a previous nominee, I believe. I don't think he got as much to do this season compared to Paul W. Downs, though. And then
Yeah.
Bowen Yang for SNL, Paul Rudd for Only Murders in the Building are my honorable
Yeah.
mentions.
I think the only one that we should mention for an honorable mention is JB Smoove for the final season of
Oh,
Curb Your
yeah.
Enthusiasm, who
Hmm.
many people have said is like, the comedic duo at the top with Larry David. I think
Hmm.
that's a pretty remarkable feat for a show that was running
Yeah.
so long to just step in and become such a major part of the show. So I could see him maybe getting into that sixth spot that's up for grabs between Bowen Yang, between Paul
Hmm.
Rudd. I do think that Paul W. Downs, though, is been really growing in his impact in this show. Of course, he's one
Yeah.
of the people behind it, and I think
Hmm.
if you watch that scene when he runs onto the plane, I do think
Yep.
that
Yeah.
would maybe sway some voters towards his direction. Yeah, and I think that top two, man, it's really strong, but I think there's nothing beating. I mean, the conversation between him and Olivia Colman in season two, episode
Hmm.
7, is so moving and profound, and so just beautifully acted because it just feels like two people existing. And I think that I it was one of the greatest scenes of this show,
Yeah.
that I think he definitely benefits. And even more so than Jeremy Allen White. I think with Jeremy Allen White, he's playing a character who's really suffering and hiding a lot of stuff. That's why that
Hmm.
metaphor of him being in the freezer is so powerful.
Yeah.
At the end of the second season, where Richie gets to wear it on his sleeve, he gets to have so much fun with it, and in many ways, this season was about him and his arc. I mean, going from where he was at the beginning,
Yeah.
not feeling like he had a pit place, and then he's calling the shots in the final episode.
He's got the
And
best arc on the whole show, I think, which I think
yes.
definitely helps.
So I think that really helps him, and I think obviously his career starting to grow. He's heading off to
Hmm.
Marvel Land.
Yep.
So yeah, I think this is an easy win for the Bear.
Yes, agreed. Now on to our guest categories. Guest actress. Speaking of The Bear, Jamie Lee Curtis, I think is pretty obviously going to win for season 3 of The Bear. Caitlin Olsen, I would honestly love to see her win for Hacks. She's so good
I
on
would
that
too.
show, especially in this past season. I would love to see it. Maybe in a future season. Olivia Colman for The Bear. We just mentioned her performance in that one episode. Such little screen time, just really one conversation, but so much impact. She's great. She's Olivia Colman. She's great. J. Smith Cameron, Succession alum, and Hacks. She's also great. I've got a lot of Hacks here. I've got Helen Hunt for Hacks,
Mhm.
always great, and then Jane Addams is consistently funny as Hannah Einbinder's mother.
Yeah.
Sarah Paulson could get in for The Bear. I just think she'll probably get into drama guest actress, and I don't think compared to the other two Bear actresses, I don't think she's great, but she didn't really do much in that particular episode. She was kind of just around. Maya Rudolph was great on SNL, maybe, but they don't. I don't feel confident ever really predicting most SNL performers because they just don't ever
You got
seem
to be
to be
Ryan
as strong.
Gosling to get in.
Yes,
I
you
feel
do.
that level of performance.
Yeah, and then Divine recently off an
Also,
Oscar win.
I just feel nominating former SNL cast members for coming back. It's like I don't get
Yeah,
an award for going home for Thanksgiving. I don't
yeah,
know.
no,
Like I
no,
don't like she's always fantastic and funny. She's
yeah.
one of the best. But like I don't know. That just seems a little like
Of
incestuous.
course, she's gonna be good. Yeah,
Yeah, like that wasn't an
she's trained
achievement
there.
of any kind.
Yeah, yeah, very fair. But yeah, do you agree with that? That feels like a pretty good six to me.
It feels good. I could see Divine Joy Randolph because she is great in Only Murders in the Building. After her Oscar win, getting in there. I think that top four is locked.
Yeah,
Maybe the top five because Helen Hunt, of course,
she's Helen
legendary
Hunt.
uh,
Yeah.
Helen Hunt, who is an Oscar winner. I know that.
Yes,
Um,
yes, for
I
sure.
think I would probably put Sarah Paulson in over Jane Addams. I do think that
Okay.
she does have a lot of softer moments,
Mhm.
and I do think she brings a. I think her character felt very real to me. So I
She
think
was.
that she I think she gets points for that. Just won a Tony. That could help her as well.
Mhm.
Um, Yeah, I think the other, I mean, I feel like everybody else, if they're gonna go the SNL route, I could also see Iowa Debris maybe benefiting from that over Maya Rudolph.
Maybe,
She had a
maybe.
really great episode, a very iconic episode because of the
She
Jennifer
did.
Lopez
And the Dune bucket.
controversy.
Yeah,
The
all
Dune
that.
bucket. Yeah, I think so I think that's worthy. And I also thought that she won't get nominated, but I really have been a fan of Jillian Jacobs on The Bear, and I thought her scene with
Oh,
Richie
yeah.
in Forks, not Forks, Fishes, was
Mhm.
really compelling. And I just I'm waiting on the Community movie so I can continue to sing her
Yeah,
praises. I thought
yeah.
in another realm she would have made a nice Invisible Woman. Speaking of uh, Fantastic
Yeah,
Four and Evan Moss Backrack, so I'll be a fan of hers forever, and I
yeah.
wanted to say her name here.
Hopefully for season 3, she's got some great moments in season 3. Also, I think we should give it to Caitlin Olsen, and then Jamie Lee Curtis. I do think she's better, honestly, in The Bear season 3 than in season 2. I thought what she did
Mhm.
during some of season 2 was a little hammy, but they like hammy, so I think
Yeah,
she
I
will
mean,
win.
I've again, maybe I've just been around these people. She felt I knew exactly who she was playing.
Yeah,
She nailed
fair,
it to a
fair.
T. I think that because of the fanfare of that episode and all the cast members, like it just like it feels more dramatic than normal because that really is, I think, that isn't a comedy. Like that was
No, that was pure
like
drama.
an Arthur Miller style drama where you have all these people and it's this crescendo of all these cascading uh, dramatic beats. And I
Yeah.
think that what she does is I think it's really impressive to be in a room full of celebrities to follow that John Mulaney monologue,
Mhm.
which we'll get to
Oh,
in a second.
he's so
And
good,
she,
yeah.
she manages to make driving into your house contextual and not over
Mhm,
the top. Like that beat,
mhm.
you have to kind of go somewhere high to justify that
Yeah,
action. And I think she
that's
does.
fair, yeah.
And I also think the look on her face when she's asking her son-in-law to just let her go and forgive her, that to
Yeah,
me is even maybe more impressive
I
than
liked that scene, yeah.
Fishes. So yeah, I just think that I don't understand necessarily why she gets all this hate. Again, she's a working actor. She's been it
Yeah,
forever. I think that
I
she
think a
gives a
little
fine
bit
performance on this show.
Everything
Um,
Everywhere,
yeah,
hate
but again, I don't
for
blame
winning
her
for
for
that.
like
No,
it just
no,
seems odd that she has to carry this weight for winning when it's like she
no,
did.
she
I mean, she
shouldn't.
probably did vote for herself if she could have,
Well, of
but it's
course,
like
yeah.
she's one name out of millions who decide, or not millions. If only there were millions deciding
Yeah.
the Oscars
I don't know if we
out of
do want
thousands.
millions deciding the Oscars.
We'll see. We would see.
That's how
Well,
that's how we get
you
Barbie
never
winning
know.
every category or something.
Um,
Um,
what's so wrong with that? Anyway, but
yeah.
so anyway,
Speaking
I think
speaking
that
of,
it's I agree with you. Caitlin Olsen is fantastic.
she's so good.
She might have gotten my vote,
Maybe
but also Olivia Colman in that one scene is fantastic. So
I'd vote for
that top
her.
four, fantastic.
Yes, agreed. More Bear and Hacks love here. John
Mhm.
Bernthal for The Bear, Bob Odenkirk for The Bear, Will Poulter for The Bear, Christopher McDonald for Hacks. He's always a good standout on the show. John Mulaney for The Bear, and then I do have one because it was just such a big deal. Ryan Gosling's SNL thing with he consistently is when he's on the show consistently has some of the best skits like with the alien abduction and all that. And then with the Beavis and Butthead skit, I think it was enough of a big moment for people to want to put him in here.
Yeah.
But if there were to be someone else, Christopher Lloyd is great on Hacks, so I could see him getting in there as well.
I could see him
That's pretty
getting it
much it.
over Christopher McDonald because I think his episode was more memorable
Hmm.
and distinct to the season.
It
Um,
was, yeah,
and then I agree with everybody else on your list.
yeah.
And did John Bernthal win for the first season?
I don't think so. No, I think what's
Mike.
his name from Ted Lasso did. Sam Richardson won for Ted Lasso last year and
Okay,
Best
so then this
Actor.
would be then that would be wonderful because I do think that Bernthal
He got
is
much more to do this season. The
he's
first
got
season
more
was
to
really just
do.
that look back at the camera
Yeah, but
for
also
most
like
of the season.
I do think he's like the sort of working actor who I do think is like starting to be beloved in that way because he just shows up in
Mhm.
all these different things. He'll go from Best Picture nominees to these sort of shows, and
Yeah,
yeah, I think that it's a shame that we don't get to see these speeches during the main Emmys because I mean
I know.
I would watch these too. I think they're
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. I remember,
Also,
Storm Reid's speech was so good last year. I loved
yeah,
it.
I want to mention John Mulaney. I think he both plays into his brand and what you know of him and his style of performance and acting and comedy, but that monologue I found so
Yeah,
incredible
I would
that,
probably vote for him, honestly.
yeah, if he won, I would not be upset because I think it was a remarkable performance because I think everybody is playing a version of themselves. I think that's why that episode works so well. But
Yeah,
I think he is asked to go outside of his comfort zone more than anybody else, and he nails it. So I really,
yeah.
I thought he was extraordinary.
He was, yeah, he was really good that episode. And poor Bob Odenkirk continues to be plenty of nominations. I don't think he's gonna win for this one, but another Emmy nom on the
He's playing
belt.
a mean character, so
He
I
is.
think that
He's
will
not
make it
likable
hard.
at all.
But he could maybe people. I mean, listen, Claire Foy managed to pop up
Yeah,
after her time was done, and I know this is a different show, but you never know. He could.
that's true. We'll see. We shall see. I think that ends us for comedies, and we now head into the limited series category. Only 5 spots here, unlike the other 2 where there were 8 spots. For some reason, it's a fixed 5 here. Baby Reindeer, the big like Netflix hit of the year, one of the biggest show
Ooh,
phenomenons of the year. I think is pretty obviously going to win. It's my favorite show of the year so far. I'm pretty sure.
ooh,
Um,
it's a good question.
Thinking about it, I think so for me. It's that and Shogun, and then we'll have to see how these shows currently airing end up being. I
Mhm,
thought The Bear season 3 might take it, but currently no.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, I think that's probably going to win. True Detective Night Country it's got pretty good reviews. It was a pretty big HBO hit, lots of prestige around it. It's True Detective. I feel pretty good about it getting nominated. Fargo, same thing. But I think the first season did really well, and then previous seasons didn't really. I think this season was kind of more of a return to form compared to previous seasons. So I think they'll nominate that. Lessons in Chemistry. I'm not super confident in it, but it did super well during like the fall TV awards. So I'm not going to doubt that, and I think it's probably seen enough for it to still get in there. And then Masters of the Air, I've got double Apple
mhm.
shows at the bottom, getting lots of a
Yeah,
push.
that's bold of you, I feel.
It is, it is. I want to put Ripley in there. I just don't. I don't know. I think if there is another one, it would be Ripley instead of Masters of the Air.
I
That's
think
what I'm
Ripley will get
between.
in. I think that really excited, um, the more tonier people in this group. I think this really, on a craft level,
It's
really
very
impressed them.
artistic.
And of course, Ripley has a very deep history in Hollywood, so I think that will get in. And I think the one on the bubble that you don't have is Fellow Travelers.
Hmm.
Jonathan Bailey was able, I believe, to pick up a win at Critics' Choice, so I do think this has a
Yeah,
little bit more awareness to it. But I do think the network streamer that it's on does
yeah,
hurt it a little bit.
yeah. I don't think it'll be as
Um,
seen.
yeah, and I'm a little bit more confident in Lessons in Chemistry. I think Brie Larson does a lot for that show and getting
Hmm.
people to pay attention to it.
Yeah,
And it's
got pretty good
also
reviews.
lighter, at least from what I
Yeah,
assume, than a lot of these other shows.
compared to these other shows, it's definitely lighter, for sure. There's lots of dark stuff here. Fargo
Mhm.
has some funny moments, but yeah, Masters of the Air. I'll probably switch out Ripley last minute.
Yeah.
I just, it's got Steven Spielberg behind it. I walk by giant billboards of it every day. Maybe that's influencing me. There's tons of them. So yeah, we'll see. I think it's between those two for that last spot, with Baby Reindeer being the obvious winner. Speaking of Baby Reindeer being the obvious winner, never mind. I thought we were going to actor. There's no one here. Jodie Foster for True Detective Night Country, I think will win
Yes.
for actress. I mean, I don't think she's won an Emmy before, so I think this will be an accomplishment for her, being honored
Yeah.
in the TV space. She's having a moment between this and Naiad. She's beloved. I love Jodie Foster. I think everyone loves Jodie Foster, and she was great in the show. So I think she'll end up winning. Um, Her main competition is probably Brie Larson for Lessons in Chemistry. She's also great in that show. I don't know. Compared to True Detective Night Country and Jodie Foster, I think that combo is just too strong for anyone here to beat it.
Yeah.
And other people, Juno Temple for Fargo. She's great in the show. She's Juno Temple. Makes sense. Sophia Vergara showing a different side, more of a dramatic side in Griselda. She's pretty good in that show as well. And then Naomi Watts, I've got for Feud, Capote versus the Swans. I could maybe see Uzo Aduba because the Emmys love her for Painkiller, but I think more people probably saw Feud, and she's also Naomi Watts, so I'm putting her there. There's also big names with Kate Winslet for The Regime or Nicole Kidman for Expats, but I don't think either of those shows really had any impact at all for them to end up getting in there compared to
Yeah.
Feud.
I think that you can't deny Kate Winslet. She is
Hmm.
just a power horse in this sort of race.
Yeah.
I mean, in the most I think the most competitive limited series actress race ever. in 2021, she
Oh
won.
my god, yeah.
So I don't count her out, especially because her show is on HBO and that might help her. But I agree with that
Mhm.
top five. I think it's really strong, and I think Jodie Foster, who has been nominated twice before for Emmys, never won.
Okay.
This would
Oh,
be
nice.
a again a feather in her cap, and she is so respected in this industry. I mean, people
Yeah.
just she will open her mouth and people will just stop what they're doing in a way that
Mhm.
I think very few actors. I think Nicole Kidman has it, but I think she's not in as popular a show. Meryl has
Yeah.
it. Frances McDormand has it. I think those are the people
Mhm.
that Jodie Foster
I think
is
Viola
a
Davis
partner.
has it.
Yes, but I think that she's of the next generation. I feel.
Next
I don't
generation,
know.
yeah, true.
I put Nicole. Maybe she's probably in this similar generation, Nicole. But I put
Yeah,
Nicole in that previous group.
that's fair. That's
Though
fair.
it's crazy to me that Nicole Kidman doesn't have two Oscars. Like that's it's still we're still waiting on.
We're
Maybe
waiting for it. It'll probably
we'll
happen.
see. You know.
Yeah, we'll see. We shall see.
But yeah, I think this will be a great win and a great speech.
Yeah, yeah. She's very good with words. She was great on that round table, and as you mentioned, everyone on that round table is fangirling over her. So she is beloved. Now we will move on to our Baby Reindeer is winning, and Richard Gadd I think will win for limited series actor for Baby Reindeer. I mean, it's the entire show is really him. He's behind it all. It's his personal
Yeah.
story. There's like that one, I forget what episode it was, but that one like comedy stand-up breakdown scene where he's just incredible. He goes on a huge emotional arc here. It's like I'm sure actors in particular will resonate with them. I don't know. Having to like relive your trauma for this series and like act it out is like very different than I think what most actors do when acting. Um,
Mhm.
it's it's a dark place to go to. So props to him. He did an incredible job. I think he's easily going to win here, but I think his biggest competition would be Andrew Scott for Ripley. I just that's much more of a like mellow, subdued, quiet
Mhm.
performance compared to Richard Gadd, which is I think is much more showy and dramatic. And I
Yeah.
think Baby Ranger is also just much more seen compared to Ripley. So I think
I mean,
those are your
I think John Hamm could be supported by his morning show nomination,
Mhm.
and wanting to give Fargo something. But I agree. I think Richard Gadd is such a powerful performance, and he created a character that I don't think we've seen before. And I do think they
Yeah.
want to give him credit for what he achieved as an actor, which is
Mhm.
very like it was very severe and
Yeah.
very integral to that show. I agree with this top four. I would just put in Matt Bomer for Fellow Travelers. I think that
Yeah.
show has a little bit more um, of a persona in the award season.
Then
Um,
Lotman, Bass Reeves.
yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just looking at these and I don't know. So I guess I'll just make the vibes argument. Something about David Oyelowo getting in for Lawman Bass Reeves felt right. I think Fellow Travelers is just not seen enough in my I mean, I don't know. Lawman Bass Reeves probably was pretty seen. Those shows do pretty well. But that fifth spot, I was up in the air. I was between The Sympathizer, Masters of the Air, Fellow Travelers. There were lots of options, and it probably will be one of them, but I don't know. That fifth spot was pretty random. So we'll see. But I agree that top
Right.
four with Ham and Hollander as well feel
Mhm.
pretty safe.
All right. Jessica
Let us
Gunning.
move on. Yes, to Baby Ranger once again. I do think Jess Gunning, it's not quite a two-hander. She's more so in the first half, but I think she is pretty much equally as integral to the show working as Richard
Yeah.
Gadd. And she
And
brings
I
a lot
think
of dimension to a character that I think could have been one note, and I think she does an incredible job at that.
in some regards, she may have the tougher role because she doesn't benefit from the narration that Richard Gadd
Mhm.
does. And she's playing a character that I think is harder for us to pinpoint. If
Yeah.
hopefully we haven't been through these situations. If
Yes.
so, then
Yeah.
maybe she's very easy to pinpoint.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think Jessica Gunning just runs away with this. I do think Callie Reese, though, going toe to toe with Jodie
Mhm.
Foster in what we assume is an award-winning performance is no easy task. So I think that's worthy of it. But yeah, I
Yeah.
do think
Her
Jessica
first
Gunning.
performance as well.
Yeah, I think Jessica Gunning will take this. And then I
Yeah.
agree. I think you have a strong list here: Jennifer Jason Lee, Diane
Mhm.
Lane. I think Sandra Oh is a potential because I do think the
May
sympathizer is going to do very well in the category we're going to talk about next, which that could may
yeah.
help her. Because I do think that
She
some
has a
of
pretty
these.
small role on it, though. It's not
Yeah,
much at all.
I think she's
But
on the
she's also
bubble.
Sandra Oh.
So we should see. I also think Chloe Sevigny for
She's
Feud
also on
Capote
the bubble.
versus the Swans on the bubble.
I
But we'll
yeah.
see. We'll see if Dakota Fanning maybe benefits from being the sole contender for Ripley
Yeah.
in this
I think
space.
that will help her get in there. I could see her missing too, but I think because she is like the second biggest actor on that show, I think she'll probably end up getting in there. She's got some great moments. Also worth mentioning, Naba Mao is great on Baby Reindeer.
Yeah,
Same with Aja Naomi King. She's great on Lessons in Chemistry. I feel pretty good about that top four. Jennifer Jason Leigh makes sense for Fargo. That's a showy enough performance. I think either Diane Lane or Chloe Sevigny will get in. I don't think both of them will. So one of those two, I went with Diane Lane because maybe she's just a bigger name. And then I already talked about Dakota Fanning and Sandra Oh. I think that's pretty much it. I can't think of anyone else who
yeah.
would be contending here. So that feels pretty good to me personally. But speaking of the sympathizer, I have him winning for Robert Downey
Oh
Jr.
my
winning
God,
for the sympathizer.
Jack has Robert
What?
Downey Jr. ahead. What is going on?
I know. We live in an alternate reality. I would think that the sympathizer would have gotten more buzz and attention, and it just kind of debuted and continued to air pretty quietly. Um, so I don't but looking at the competition, I just don't know who would beat him, honestly. I've got Finn Bennett at
Yeah,
number 2. He was my favorite True Detective performance,
I
but I
mean,
don't think he's gonna win for that.
I think Jonathan Bailey should be higher than you have him. I think he could give him a run for his
Yeah.
money if that show picks up some steam, and his career is, of course, picking up steam. If people remember him from Bridgerton, if they're getting excited about
Okay.
him from Wicked, I could see him potentially taking it from Downey. I think
Yeah.
the issue with the Sympathizer was just that it required Downey to like go out and sell it, and I think at a point where he just won his Oscar, he's like, I need a break.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to do my press for my movie months after
Mhm.
release, and I went on this award season. It's very exhausting giving speeches.
Mhm.
I don't know why it didn't connect. But yeah, I think Downey. I mean, I would say Downey, Lewis Pullman, Jonathan Bailey. I think those are probably your contenders here, and I do think Joe Keery gets points for really
Yeah.
stepping outside of Hawkins, and I think making a name for himself and running with the opportunity. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think that's how I would look at this race.
Yeah, he's great on Fargo. Like I mentioned, I think the True Detective performers, Finn Bennett and John Hawkes' son and father, were, I think, the two supporting actor standouts on that show. Both very good. Tom Goodman Hill. I've noticed lots of people don't have him in there. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe he is a pretty despicable and terrible character, so maybe that's why they don't have him in there. But he's pretty integral to the show, working. So
It's a
I still
small
have him.
role, though.
It is
I mean,
small. I
compared
could
to
see him
like
missing.
Robert Downey Jr., movie star, Lewis
I just Baby
Pullman,
Ranger
and
was
John,
so
and
huge.
yeah, but like Lewis Pullman and Jonathan Bailey also feel kind of like co-lead, so I could see him
Mhm.
potentially
Well,
slipping through the cracks.
I won't spoil anything. Lewis Pullman is not quite a co-lead in Lessons in
Would he
Chemistry,
be
but
the? But he's the second.
he's still like the second build, yeah. But
Yeah, that's what I mean.
either him or Agent Naomi King, I think she's definitely got the bigger role. But he's integral to the first few episodes for sure. Um, yeah, and then I should probably have Jonathan Bailey higher. I just still have doubts about Fellow Travelers overall, like being seen enough. But I do think if there's any part of that show that will rise above the show not being super seen, I think he is
Mhm.
the clear standout of the show to rise above. And then yeah, that's pretty much those other honorable mentions. Maybe Treat Williams for Feud if they're going for that acting wise. Sam Spruill for Fargo. Christopher Eccleston for Detective Night Country. But I feel pretty good about that 7, honestly.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and that ends our Emmy predictions. Any final thoughts? We've done it.
Yeah, it's always fun. I'm looking forward to the nominations. Like my
Hmm.
favorite times to catch up on television are usually over the July 4th holiday because it's usually a
Yeah,
long weekend and I've
that
already seen
time.
the big movie so I can catch up on the shows. And then
Yeah.
when the nominations come out, because then I can like there are certain shows on this list and I'm like, okay, which one should I prioritize? This is also, I mean,
Hmm.
this is part of the what awards can do.
Yeah.
Movies are usually ahead of the game, but they do kind of narrow your priorities. And so
When there's so much TV, yeah.
yes, because there is it's
A
it's
lot more
ins
time.
it's it's quite frankly
Too much.
crazy. Too
Yeah.
much. It's
Yeah.
just imagining how much television there is out there. But somebody's
Especially
watching
now.
them.
Hmm.
Somebody's watching
Yeah, we are or somebody, but yeah. Yeah, I feel pretty good about that. Nominations will be out in about a week, so we will be talking about that as well. I wish they would announce the way they announced Emmy nominations still confounded me. I doubt they'll change it, but supporting categories and all that will be announced online via like news announcements. So yeah, we'll be talking about that. So stay tuned for that, as well as some other upcoming stuff you can look forward to. Like, comment your predictions down below, subscribe so you can stay tuned on all the awards and movie and TV things. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the video that comes after this. We'll see what it is. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.